is nothing sacred. That is sacred ground.
On MSNBC, Mike Barnicle ripped Donald Trump for the smiling thumbs-up photo op at Arlington National Cemetery.
And the idea that any candidate of any party would use intentionally or unintentionally, use that sacred ground as a prop for a political campaign is beyond condemnation.
Treason! Oh!
This week, on the third anniversary of an attack on withdrawing U.S. forces in Afghanistan that killed 13 American soldiers, Donald Trump laid a wreath at the Tomb of the Unknowns. Then, Trump went with family members of a soldier killed to her grave in Section 60 for a photo op.
Section 60, if you're unfamiliar, is where all the veterans that, or all the military members that died in Afghanistan and Iraq are buried. It's the freshest graves in the nation's most hallowed cemetery. I just kind of don't know what to say. It's just so disgraceful. Yeah.
But it gets even worse. According to NPR, Trump campaign staff had altercation with official at Arlington National Cemetery. Arlington officials had made clear that only cemetery staff members would be authorized to take photographs or film in the area known as Section 60. When the cemetery official tried to prevent Trump campaign staff from entering Section 60, campaign staff verbally abused and pushed the official aside, according to the source. U.S. military veterans are lashing out.
The reason I say it's one of the most despicable things I've ever seen is because Donald Trump is directly responsible for that service member dying. Oh, I'm sorry. Did you think I was going to say Biden? No. See, Donald Trump screwed that up from moment one. We had a government installed in Afghanistan. We did. But Donald Trump did negotiate with the Afghan government. He negotiated with the Taliban. You remember the people that we had been fighting all this time in that country? What the f*** did y'all think we were only fighting Al-Qaeda? Who was protecting Al-Qaeda? The Taliban. He negotiated directly with them. Directly.
Even Trump's former national security advisor says the Trump deal with the Taliban was a catastrophic mistake.
What happened in these series of negotiations and concessions to the Taliban is we kind of threw the Afghans under the bus on the way out.
And they cut the Afghan government out of those negotiations, right?
Absolutely. So that was mistake one. Then forced them to release 5,000 of some of the most heinous people on earth, and then began
the Trump administration
withdraw.
forced the Afghan government to release 5,000 Taliban.
Correct.
One of those Taliban was the Kabul airport bomber who had been caught by CIA but freed by the Taliban days before the attack.
Does Trump bear part of the responsibility for what happened?
Oh, yes. I mean, so the whole premise of talking to the Taliban before you leave Afghanistan, why the heck were we even doing that?
Given all that Trump history with Afghanistan, some veterans say even the Trump wreath laying at Arlington Cemetery was an insult.
As a veteran who served for 20 years and 28 days during Desert Shield, Desert Storm, the Gulf War, and the Iraq War, retired honorably, and have upheld my oath every day since September 30th, 2006, my retirement day. But on this day, a treasonous traitor who tried to overthrow the government on January 6th, 2021, a convicted felon, an adjudicated rapist, liable for fraud, degenerate, misogynistic pig, lying grifter who pushed Bibles and now pushing books about bullshit, was allowed to go to Arlington National Cemetery on no special day and lay a wreath. What the f*** and who in the f*** allowed this motherfucker to do that shit and defecate on our fallen soldiers that are buried there? You heard what I said, defecate. And you maggot veterans that are okay with this treasonous traitor, as I said, your service means nothing.
The Trump campaign is defending the visit to Arlington National Cemetery. Spokesman Stephen Chung said there was no physical altercation as described. Then in the same statement, Chung confirmed there was, and that he's a liar. Quote, "For whatever reason, an unnamed individual clearly suffering from a mental health episode decided to physically block members of President Trump's team during a very solemn ceremony." Trump campaign advisor Chris LaCivita also confirmed the campaign's dumping on the cemetery staffer in an emailed statement to the Washington Post while misspelling the word hallowed. Quote, "For a despicable individual to physically prevent the President Trump's team from accompanying him to the solemn event is a disgrace and does not deserve to represent the hallowed grounds of Arlington National Cemetery." LaCivita, it should be noted, led efforts to smear the service of two living veterans, Governor Tim Walz of Minnesota and former Senator and Democratic presidential candidate John Kerry. 5 family members of the U.S. soldiers killed in the Afghanistan bombing thanked Trump for attending the event, saying he conducted himself with respect and dignity, and that the pictures were for family members to cherish the memory forever. Well, good for them. As for everybody else, perhaps we should not be surprised that Donald Trump and his team used physical force to enter a government facility. After all, it's only been a few years since this. The difference this week is that Donald Trump actually joined his followers in trampling over protected and treasured government-run property. Meanwhile, in Afghanistan, the Taliban have now implemented new laws against women. Women may no longer speak in public or show their faces in public. Women can also not speak or sing in their own home if it's loud enough to be heard outside. Women are also banned from attending school, working, and going to public parks. A few years ago, when Donald Trump struck his deal with the Taliban, activists warned that women would suffer, as is often the case when Donald Trump is involved. Well, the women of Afghanistan are indeed suffering. And anybody in America who really cares about the sanctity of Arlington National Cemetery has now, thanks to Trump, been betrayed. By the way, Donald Trump's daughter-in-law, Lara Trump, the head of the Republican National Committee, is now getting ridiculed for her epic stupidity.
That if you're a person who is attempting to cheat in our elections or an illegal citizen attempting to illegally vote in our elections, we will find you.
Did you catch that with Lara Trump? Here's the Republican chair slowed down.
Attempting to cheat in our elections or an illegal citizen attempting to illegally vote.
Raw story. Stupid Lara Trump ridiculed by critics after threat against illegal citizens. Check out that video at the link below. It generated a lot of comments on YouTube. One of the most popular is from one Keno Dave, who wrote, "Lara and Eric deserve each other, dumb and dumber." I hear you. I look forward to reading your comments about the reaction pouring in to Donald Trump's stunt at Arlington National Cemetery. I'm David Shuster. Thanks for joining us.